Registered?
Man, fuck the gun, man. They're going to get away.
Hands behind your back.
Yo, this whole episode, man, it's just Charles. I don't know. Charles is starting to become like one of my favorite funny characters. It's just something about him. He's always doing something. If it's not something, it's like the little things that he's doing, because he's trying to impress Lucia. He's trying to get her back. You see this man working out, pumping the guns. Now, I don't know if she was getting turned on a little bit by what he was doing. I don't know. It seems like it was slightly working, but then we seen at the end where she was with the doctor, and then that's when it was just like, it was things was getting hot and heavy there. But overall, this episode was all right. It was all right because we got to see more of the story progress between like the Flannery brothers on when, Loco, I guess like the translation, he said 250, and then they give him, I guess, 2,500 bricks or something, and I'm like, that's a lot of bricks. Like that's a lot. I mean, to be Meech and Terry to just do this on a daily basis. I mean, to be honest, I'd be nervous. I'd be nervous to even do this because I'm like, you having this is an operation, and they've done this for like almost 20 years, I think. Like almost 20 years or 15. It was roughly around those times, but I'm like, that's a very long time to do this. And I'd be like, yo, cops is looking at me. Who's talking? Who's on the wire? Like, I would be nervous. But I mean, it was cool because it's like they got everybody together. They was trying to, push this weight together. And then that's when you see like Henry. Yo, Henry, see, I have like mixed feelings. I don't like how Henry is portrayed as Blade, man. It's like she coming up with her sword and sticking people. Now again, if this in real life, the actual Henry, I don't know if it was like that or not. But again, it's just she coming off like she Blade, man. I'm like, what is this? And she like, Marquisha, you can shit on me. I mean, I like that was a killer line for what she said. She said something. I think he was either fuck you or get out my face. And she was like, no, won't you? I like that line. That was a cool line. But overall, I just don't like her characters because she's. But it's just that you see her. She's trying to go up against BMF and Terry, and she tried to have Brian follow Meech because it was like, oh, Meech is back in town. So it was just like, okay, cool. Meech is back in town. So she figured, she was like, well, have Brian follow. Now, Meech comes up with like a smart plan on the fly where he basically had like the air pilot was just like, tell these cops, I guess, like a fantastic story. I love how Brian was like, what are you doing? He said, yeah, I'm a cop on E-course or something that he said. It was funny because he was like, oh, step out the car, sir. And he was like, oh, what is this, a gun? He said, no, the real drug dealer is right there. He said, put your hands up. And then you see like Meech smiling in the car and the van he's driving off. I don't know. It just had like on my brain. I had like a Tom and Jerry thing. It was just like Tom is always getting caught and Jerry keeps getting away. I don't know. I was watching too much stuff with my cousins today, but it's just that was kind of funny to me. He just like drives off, and you don't see Brian for like a while. And then that's when Henry was like, well, one of Henry's guys come back and tell him like, oh, Brian hasn't been picking up his phone. And she's like, well, I can't really trust this guy. And he's just like, because she's trying to like become her own person, but it's just her father is like, he's like in control, and he likes how things is done a certain way, and she's trying to do things differently. And from what she was explaining to Brian earlier, that she could just pull, I guess, the protection off of Kevin, because I guess she's protecting him in the cells, which makes sense because Brian is doing everything that he can to protect his son, but it's just that things just keeps getting in the way of things, right? And then we see him like later, like he talks to Jen, and Jen is just like, well, I'll arrest you if whatever it is that you're doing. And then he tells her like, well, you kind of like put the fake coke in the bag, and she's like, well, haha,
You triggered my trap card!
You activated my trap card. I stole the real bricks from Saint, and I replaced it. So I'm like, Okay. Like, I was like, okay, and he just basically tells her, he like, listen, everything that I'm doing I'm doing all this for my son. Now I'm assuming in the next episode that since Brian kind of like messed up and he didn't like fully follow Meech, because originally Henry was gonna like, I guess, get the drop on, I guess, everything that what Meech is doing, and I guess kill everybody. That's what she was going to do, but then that failed. So I'm assuming that in the next episode she probably might I would assume like she probably might like do something to like Brian, or maybe she might pull off the protection detail that's on Kevin in his prison cell, or yeah, basically like pull off the protection detail where he's staying at, right? And I don't know. Now I don't know, like in the story too, on if Brian will well, because it's like him and Henry, they don't click. It's just like that it doesn't work, and it doesn't click. Now granted, even though he is friends with her father and they go way back and they're friends, but it's just like they don't click. And I don't really see, well, there's a possibility that Brian could betray her. He could do it, but it's just like, I don't know, because he doesn't like the Flannery brothers. He hates them with a passion. So for him to like betray her for them, I don't know. I feel like something could happen like that, but we don't know. We don't know, because he needs the money to get his son like the best lawyers, and to try to get him out of there. But again, we don't really know what's going to happen. And I feel like Brian as a character, he's just going to sink lower and lower. And he might do more heinous things in order for him to like protect his son. But again, we're going to see what's going to happen there. And then we seen like how, Meech returned back to Detroit. He's, talking to everybody. He's getting all like the troops together. They're like, oh, the king is back. And it's just, you see how Meech has like a really strong presence with everybody, because it's just like when he returns, like everybody stands up. They know who he is. And Terry, I wouldn't say like nobody doesn't respect Terry. It's just that type of love is there, but it's not really. It's just more like, oh, it's for Meech, because Meech is like that guy and he gets stuff done, while Terry kind of fumbles a little bit. And as we see where Markeisha was talking with like the lawyer, and she was trying to like have the lawyer, I guess, expunge like the child services things that was happening to Terry. And as he is, he's like, oh, election season is coming up and I need maybe a little donation. So she blackmails him later and was like, well, you've been helping out a lot of corrupted and crooked drug dealers, and make sure this goes away. And that's when she tries to like see Terry later on, but he's like, oh, I got like a family thing. And she's like, why is it always Meech? And I see you as a boss. Now granted, it's the seeds that's going to be placed into Terry, because eventually he does become what he wanted to be. He's going to become a boss, and he's eventually going to like separate from Meech entirely. But it's just that when they had the family dinner, Nicole was exposing things, because she kind of like fed up with it all, because it was like, they treat her like as a child. And it's just like she made like a lot of good points, like, basically both her brothers are drug dealers. They had children before they was able to drink. Charles cheated. Lucia has the hot with Dr. Reese. So a lot of these things are kind of like being progressed further. But I think in the documentary, I believe that Lucia did actually divorce Charles. I think they did get like an actual divorce, but for the story, it just made it seem like, oh, Charles actually cheated. So that's why they're going forward with this divorce. But I'm a little curious to see what they're gonna do, because again, like Charles he's trying his best. He's like trying to get the guns together. He's trying everything in his power for Lucia to stay. But it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I think I do see her still going forward with the divorce and actually leaving Charles. And I guess Nicole's going to be like up in the air at this point, because it's like she's sort of like caught in the middle of it all. She's kind of like stuck, and she doesn't, have anywhere else to go in the matter. But it's just that, Meech and Terry, they constantly, building up their little empire as we see them go. And then we see Stax at the end basically talking with Glock, and he like, well, how about this? You kill Meech, I throw his brother for free, and I kill Remy, and then we can really make business together. I said, can't trust him. Can't trust him. I don't care how much money you give somebody. It's like that. It always goes back to that episode in Recess. I don't care. He can do the most dastardly things. He can give you everything, but it's something about you he still doesn't like. And it's just like Stacks is like greedy. He's like and it makes sense because it's like you got a guy who comes in Detroit basically telling you all these sweet things, and Atlanta is your city. Sorry, Atlanta is your city, and you have a guy coming from Detroit telling you all these things, and that's when he's just like everybody else, like Remy, because it's like, you know, you have this guy that's coming in. It's our city. It's our city. It's not his, it's ours. But, you know, Meech is coming in, making all these types of connections with everybody to try to get everybody paid, which nobody understands. Everybody wins at the end of the day when everybody's making money. When nobody's making money, then there's always problems and conflict, but nobody really sees it that way. They just see it as they own selfish desires and greed as to what they want. But it's going to be quite interesting in that next episode to see what's going to actually happen. And, I mean, we did see, like, you know, Terry agreeing to go with Meech to Atlanta because he was just like, you know, since I do own half of it, I kind of want to see how things is operated down here to make sure you're not messing anything up. And that's when Meech was like, oh, word, all right, come down to Atlanta with us. So I loved it, just love it. But overall, episode was all right. Like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I catch you all in the next one.